This is the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Got you. This is actually the iPhone 14 Pro Max. Or is it? Okay, trolling aside, yes, this is Apple's latest flagship, the iPhone 16 Pro Max. And every year I find myself getting more excited for these devices than I probably should be. On paper, this is one of, if not the best smartphones that you can buy. It has the fastest yet very efficient SoC in a smartphone, the A18 Pro, an impressive and reliable camera system, now with an upgraded 48 megapixel ultra-wide. It has very slim bezels, a display that's very bright, and software optimization and support from app developers that you simply just can't find anywhere else. And now, across the entire iPhone 16 lineup, there's support for the upcoming and long-awaited Apple Intelligence. There's some really cool features as well, like camera control, and the display did see a size increase of 0.2 inches, which, not gonna lie, is actually pretty nice. Now, the iPhone is one of those phones that I don't really need to review. A lot of you are already longtime Apple users, and a lot of you are already inside of the Apple ecosystem. So when it comes to upgrading, the best and newest iPhone is probably just gonna be what you're picking regardless. So chances are, if you own an iPhone, you already know what to expect with the 16 Pro Max. But that knowing what to expect is actually where I want to focus for today's video. Because I don't think that the iPhone 16 Pro Max does enough, and truthfully, I don't think this phone even needs to exist. Before we get into it, a like and a sub to the channel is always appreciated. I want to hit 50,000 subscribers before the end of the year, and I just want to say thank you all so much for your support. It really does mean the world. Okay, so that might have been a little bit harsh, and I want to talk about some specs quickly and things that I actually do appreciate about this phone before I dive into the negativity that us tech influencers apparently seem to thrive off of. On first impressions, I can tell you that the iPhone 16 Pro Max is very well built and will stand the test of time. Apple's still using grade 5 titanium, although what I like about this iteration is that they've brought a more polished texture, making the phone feel and look more luxurious again. Like, call me pretentious, but I actually really do think that this looks really nice. There's also been an improvement to the ceramic shield, now being 50% stronger. And what this actually means, who knows? It's likely Apple used some sort of obscure testing to get this number, though what I can tell you is that I spent the entire year without using a screen protector for my first time ever on the iPhone 15 Pro Max, and I had absolutely zero issues. So for this to even be slightly better, to me, that's a win. The screen brightness now also is the same at 2000 nit peak in HDR, though I found the phone to dim less when outdoors and in the sun, and my first day filming with this phone outside was really hot at 28 degrees Celsius, and the 16 Pro Max handled it much better than the 15 Pro Max would have. The display can also go down to 1 nit, and this is something that I actually appreciate a lot when laying in bed. I personally find something like the S24 Ultra to be a little too bright even at the lowest brightness setting. And we will talk about camera control in a bit, but one area where I didn't expect this to impact at all was the action button. Since I no longer need to use the action button for my camera, I've now just set it to open a shortcut folder showing me my social media apps to stay on top of my work. And I also appreciate Apple not going backwards and shrinking the phone or cutting as much weight as possible, because this has allowed them to accommodate a larger battery, a larger display, and a new graphene cooling layer inside of the device to maintain thermals. And yes, so far with this phone, even though it's only been a short time, I'm not having any issues with battery drain or excessive heat, so I don't think that overheating this year is going to be a problem. I also have noticed the battery to be improved despite it still learning my usage patterns, though as far as screen on time goes, I don't think it's fair to tell you numbers just yet, because it's still way too early and my usage is pretty heavy due to testing right now. Though I think Apple could lift their chin up and put a smile on their face and finally give us pro users colors that are actually nice. I mean, this is the new Desert Titanium option, and at first I was kind of torn, thinking that I made the wrong choice, but it has grown on me and I've never owned a gold iPhone before, so why not? But I think the ultramarine and the teal and even the pink this year on the regular 16 look really nice, and I hate that going for the Pro makes you pick these like very weird and muted colors. Now, when it comes to the A18, the new iPhone 16 Pro Max and the 16 series as a whole have 8 gigs of RAM, better ray tracing support, faster GPU and CPU performance, and have increased memory bandwidth. They also have a much better NPU, which should help for things like AI processing. Obviously, this is a benefit as it doesn't come with a hit to efficiency, and I'm sure later down the line we will be able to see the iPhone stretch its legs a little bit more with Apple Intelligence. But as of right now, I don't really see an area in which this performance is needed. I'm sure playing games like Assassin's Creed and Resident Evil on the iPhone is cool, and I'm certain that there's more to come, at least in terms of games that will be able to utilize this better, but I haven't noticed any difference at all, and coming from realistically any phone that I've used lately, I don't think you will either. My point is that modern smartphones are very good already. Any flagship device that you pick up is going to perform really well. And the iPhone further solidifies this. They could have put the A17 Pro in this and lied to us, and we still would have ate it up because none of us are really going to be pulling teeth and splitting hairs trying to find the real differences. Now, as far as cameras go, the iPhone 16 Pro Max is pretty much using the exact same camera system as the iPhone 15 Pro Max, minus the new 48 megapixel ultra-wide sensor. It has more megapixels, it's also larger, and that does help in low light. This has been unironically an actual improvement and something that I did notice immediately. The images are sharp, there's far less noise in darker environments, and there's no discernible difference to the quality of the actual main 48 megapixel sensor. Obviously now this is also going to give us a higher resolution and better image and video, and this works really well in a scenario like this where I want to vlog on the iPhone's rear cameras to get the best quality, but I want to make sure that I'm actually in frame and not missing anything. I think that this is a really big upgrade to the iPhone, and I think the ultra-wide went from being my most underrated, underused camera to something that I'm actually going to rely on now with this generation of device. Now, when it comes to the main shooters and the telephoto, I don't want to spend too much time on this video. However, I actually think there is a slight difference. I feel as though the A18 Pro stretched its legs a little more, perhaps with a more complicated image pipeline, and I found that HDR looks better, whilst also being much more consistent. Some images just appear better than any images that I've taken on the 15 Pro Max. And that being said, this isn't going to be a reason you should upgrade, as at a first glance, they will look identical to the 15 Pro Max and what it was able to capture. For video though, that's kind of where things actually tend to take a turn for the better. Now, you can use the iPhone to shoot at 4K 120 frames per second, with quite literally no degradation to the image, as opposed to you being able to shoot in 30 FPS or 60 FPS. This is insanely cool for people who want to get their start with making content, as now I feel like the iPhone is truly an all-in-one tool, capable of doing anything that you need creatively. You can use this for B-roll and for time ramps and do some pretty cool stuff with it. And now, while the front-facing camera didn't get an improvement, the microphones actually did. Inside of the iPhone 16 Pro Max, there are now 4 studio grade microphones, according to Apple, which do allow you to change the audio or isolate it to specific things that are inside of the frame. It works pretty well for a phone, and I actually do think that this could replace a lot of creators' essentials like carrying around extra microphones. And when it comes to the quality, I mean, now I think the iPhone 16 Pro Max is the best sounding iPhone when it comes to audio and video. What I was hoping would really ramp up the cameras and take this phone to the next level was camera control. However, I am actually really disappointed. So you can press it once to open the camera app, press it again to take a photo. You can also light press for zoom and light press it twice to bring up the settings menu. In theory, this is amazing. Having control of the iPhone's cameras without blocking the screen and being able to quickly access specific tools like exposure at the tip of your finger is really nice. But it's very finicky, and it's in a really awkward place since it has to accommodate for both portrait and landscape positions. And mine also just stops working randomly. So there's a haptic motor inside that mimics a button press for light taps. Yeah, 20% of the time, mine just doesn't. Sometimes I have absolutely no feedback on it whatsoever, and I'm not able to actually use it for bringing up settings or zoom, and I think that's really weird. I wonder if that's something that happened during an update. I did just update to the beta, so I'm hoping that this did improve that, and I will make a note about it in my next video. The camera control doesn't work. To change from photo or video, you also need to tap the screen anyways, potentially forcing you to adjust your grip. And when taking photos, the amount of pressure you actually need to take the image using camera control is enough to completely mess up your shot. Look, this is a really cool feature, and if Apple opened this up to developers and apps that weren't limited to camera functions, I could see some real use cases for this. But I don't think that this is something that I'm ever actually going to use. And when it comes to the new features, at least the notable ones, that's pretty much it. There is Wi-Fi 7. The phone can use 25 watt MagSafe charging now with 15 watts Qi 2 support, and it does also now support 45 watts over the wire. Thank goodness. But Apple spent a majority of the event showcasing and banking on Apple Intelligence to sell us these phones. And for something that isn't even here at all on iOS 18 at launch, at least publicly, is kind of silly. I don't like being negative about Apple. In fact, I'm actually a really big fan of their products. But I don't see myself recommending this to anyone unless you have an iPhone 12 Pro or a phone that's quite literally on its last breath. So if you were feeling pressured to upgrade, I think you'd be better off just holding off until next year and getting a phone that might actually be a big improvement. I just think that's a smart move. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like down below, subscribe for more content. I'll see you all in the next one. And as always, if you've watched all the way through, drop a phone emoji down below so I know who the real ones are, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace out.